Alright guys, let's talk Duskfade. So a couple of weeks ago, I was given 7 minutes of footage to exclusively debut here on the channel by developer WeirdBeluga to provide a good idea as to what they're cooking up here with this upcoming action platformer, set to release next year. So the game still has about a year's worth of development to go, but already it's looking incredibly polished, especially if we're comparing this version here to the initial reveal version that debuted last year. I've been able to sit down and talk with about half of the development team of Duskfade to pick their brain and ask them different questions about the game, a lot of which they're very hush-hush about, but it's given me a good idea as to what they're trying to go for here, and it's got me all the more excited. I can't stress this enough. If you're a fan of the PlayStation 2 era of action platformers, you know, looking at Sly Raccoon or Ratchet Clank, then you're absolutely going to be at home here with Duskfade. And one thing that's become incredibly apparent to me upon talking to the guys over at WeirdBeluga is just how passionate they are about this project. These guys are relatively new developers in the industry, with their only other game being Clid the Snail. They've made it very clear though that Duskfade is this true passion project, a video game that they've always wanted to create, a true culmination of a ton of games they loved growing up, all coming together in one neat package. And with a bit of a renaissance happening for platformers, especially looking at the indie space, this hopefully means that Duskfade will be able to capture the attention of many. So I've been told that the 7 minutes of footage right here is all taking place within the same level, and you wouldn't think that just because there is so much variety and diversity in environment as the character is making his way through this space. It appears at first that this is multiple different stages or levels that the character is playing through. It looks like there'll be about 4 to 5 different worlds or levels that you'll travel to throughout the game, with the 4 chains here representing those different worlds. When you finish a level, get to the end, defeat the boss, one of these chains will break, eventually leading you to the top of this tower, which obviously holds some type of importance to the game's story. Now that doesn't actually sound like too many levels, but from my understanding of how they work, they are very long and large spaces that all consist of multiple different environment types kind of wrapping into one. All of the footage that we've seen from the game so far is from that first level you play through. So this level, for example, starts you off in a foresty village type environment where your goal is to make your way to this volcano, as we can see one of the, let's just call them time chains, for example, connecting all the way to the top of the volcano, as the end portion of this gameplay ends with you being inside of the volcano. From what the devs have told me, the game is focused to be linear like the traditional platformer. However, there are some spaces that are much larger and almost wide open, like the cavern right here, along with branching pathways and secrets defined as you make your way down that main path. I explained this in the first interview that I got out from the developers, but they have mentioned that some of the secrets that you do uncover throughout the levels in this game contain important information towards the game's world and story. And when I was talking to them more recently, they further emphasized how there are a lot of secrets hidden throughout these stages. They also told me how there is going to be backtracking involved as well, how the player will return to previously explored levels to access new areas, as they now have a new ability that's required to access that space. So it looks like there's some type of warp system that'll transport you back to previous levels or the main hub. I asked the devs about this interesting looking platform device here, as it looks like you can interact with it. They were very, very quiet about this. They didn't want to provide any context on what this thing is, so clearly it does hold some kind of importance. The most important thing we got to see a real example of here is what the platforming is looking like and how movement works. For me personally, the movement here is giving me big vibes of Jak Daxter, and that's a really good thing, the fluid and smooth animations, though there appears to be a little bit more momentum behind movements compared to something like Jak Daxter. The mid-air dash seems to be incorporated incredibly well into the level design. This is something that you'll be pulling off constantly, reminding me a lot of how Nintendo incorporated Mario's mid-air dash towards Cappy within the level design of Odyssey. But then we've also got some Ratchet Clank flavor mixed in here too, with the wall jumping, the rail grinding, and even a grapple hook system. Obviously, it's crucial that the devs perfect the movement and the feeling of it, as platforming platforming is at the core of Duskfade, and right now, it's looking really good. The other side to Duskfade is its combat. So there is a combat system here, though don't go into this expecting that it's a hack and slash or action RPG. It seems to be quite light in this department. You've got a combo that you can pull off with your clock arm sword. There are also abilities that you can activate that seem to be stringed to an MP system as represented on the HUD up here. It looks like as you use this resource, it slowly replenishes over time. These abilities seem to be transformations, sort of a little bit similar to Kingdom Hearts 3's Keyblade transformations. The one we got to see here in the gameplay transforms the sword into a gun to pull off a blast attack. But it looks like there are 4 slots in total that we can bind abilities to. What's interesting about this sword weapon is, as you're at different stages of a combo, it transforms and morphs into different things. Like this slide dash attack, it'll change into a smaller clock arm. Or here, where it transforms into a large cog. Like any good 3D platformer, we need a sidekick, and here we have Cuckoo, a mechanical bird. The devs didn't tell me too much about Cuckoo. There are some secrets and story-related stuff in relation to this bird, but Cuckoo will actually passively attack enemies while you're in combat. I've also seen some footage on one of the boss fights in the game. These will require you to dodge at the right moment to avoid being attacked, attacking at the right moment, pretty simple stuff, but as you deal damage to the boss and as their health gets lower, different platforming challenges are incorporated into the boss fight. So there's not necessarily phases to the boss fight, again, not thinking along the lines of an action RPG. So the impression that I got was sort of thinking along the lines of how Crash Bandicoot approaches its boss fights with the platforming elements implemented. Now, one thing the devs did stress to me is that the heads-up display seen in this build of the game is incredibly placeholder, and almost all of it will be redesigned. And you can tell from the basic text and icon they're using for coins. But I think it's a really good start. I especially like the character information HUD element with the health and the MP, with an illustration of the main character a part of that element. It's very Kingdom Heartsy. In fact, the character art is even reactive just like it is in Kingdom Hearts. When the main character receives damage here, you'll see that it reacts accordingly. I love these little Kingdom Hearts touches. You'll also notice this little green star. This is your potion. There are means of being able to replenish your health while you're in combat. Now, I was really curious about what the currency in this game can be used for. As you defeat enemies or break different objects throughout the environment, you collect these gems, which are coins. The devs didn't want to tell me much about this, but it seems like there is an upgrade system of some kinds that you'll be able to spend your coins on. I'm imagining that at the main hub, which is likely where this large tower is located, it'll probably be a vendor or someone you can interact with to spend these coins. Another big focus of this game, though, is its story, which is a little bit unusual when it does come to platformers. Typically speaking, platformers tend to have these very light-hearted, whimsical type stories. Nothing too in-depth and a lot of the time quite surface level. They want to have a story here that has a bit of substance and displaying themes that people can actually relate to. Now, I don't know really anything too much about the story other than a few tidbits that the devs have told me about. Number one, the game is revolving around time, and there is going to be this theme of loss. They have told me, though, that they saw a few different theories on what the story is going to entail across some of my videos talking about this game, and that some of those theories are actually on the money. I think it's quite a cool thing, though, that a platformer here is trying to tell a deeper story than what we're typically used to. It's actually one of the big reasons why I enjoy Jak and Daxter so much. Well, initially it started off as this really impressive, colorful action platformer. Naughty Dog decided to start injecting some really cool, deep story ideas into this game's world. WeirdBeluga have told me that they like games where people become really invested in the characters and the story the game is trying to tell. It's one of the big reasons why they love Kingdom Hearts so much. So they're wanting to achieve something a little bit similar here with Duskfade. So that's all on Duskfade for the time being. I have to say a massive thanks to WeirdBeluga and FireShine Games for providing me so much opportunity with Duskfade. It's a game that I am personally incredibly excited for, and I really want to succeed. I can tell it's coming from a team of people that are really dedicated and really passionate to creating something that harkens back to the video games that a lot of us grew up with. Tons of different flavors from various different video games that I personally love so much, so I feel like this game is a true love letter of sorts. If you guys want to keep up with everything to do with Duskfade leading up to release in 2026, then all all links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's video. Be sure to slap that like button, it helps me out more than you know. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A massive thanks to everyone who supported the Patreon. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll talk again real soon.